Welcome back to Story Time, where we dive deep into the most chilling, mind-bending, and thought-provoking stories. In today's episode, we'll discuss an intriguing murder case solved by Detective Laura Hayes.
Hello guys, I'm Detective Laura Hayes, and today I will share with you the story of a case that still haunts me to this day. It started on a cold November morning when Evelyn Carter, a 32-year-old journalist, was found dead in her apartment. The cause of death was obvious, multiple stab wounds. But the motive? That was a mystery. Evelyn wasn't just any journalist. She was known for her investigative work, uncovering corruption and scandals in our small, tight-knit town. People admired her bravery, but not everyone appreciated her tenacity. And when I walked into her apartment that morning, I knew this was no random act of violence. This was personal. The first thing that struck me was the locked room in Evelyn's apartment. It took us hours to find the key, but when we did, it felt like stepping into her secret world. The walls were lined with photos, documents, and notes, an investigation board that would put even the best detectives to shame. Evelyn had been digging into some of the town's most powerful figures, politicians, business tycoons, and even law enforcement. Her notes hinted at something big, something dangerous. But there was one detail that stood out. She'd written, "Trust no one. They're always watching." That's when I realized, whoever killed Evelyn wasn't just trying to silence her, they were sending a message. Part 2. I started combing through Evelyn's files. One name came up repeatedly, Robert Langston, a prominent businessman with a spotless reputation. But according to Evelyn, his empire was built on lies, blackmail, and even murder. She had evidence, but it was incomplete. I needed to know more. My first instinct was to bring Robert in for questioning, but then something happened. My phone buzzed. It was an anonymous message, "Stop now, or you're next." I didn't flinch. I was used to threats in this line of work. But something about this felt different, like I was being watched. Evelyn's phone was a treasure trove of evidence. Among her recordings, I found one that sent chills down my spine. It was a conversation between Evelyn and a man whose voice I couldn't identify. "You think you're untouchable, Evelyn? If you keep pushing, you won't live to see the end of this week." Her response was fearless. "If anything happens to me, the world will know everything." She wasn't bluffing. In her apartment, I found a hidden flash drive labeled insurance. It contained audio files, emails, and videos implicating several prominent figures. But there was one problem: the files were encrypted, and the key was missing. Part 3. It wasn't until I revisited Evelyn's locked room that I noticed something I'd overlooked before: a framed photograph on her desk. It was of her and her younger sister, MIA, taken years ago. On the back, written in Evelyn's neat handwriting, were the words, "MIA knows." MIA Carter had moved out of town years ago, and had kept a low profile ever since. I tracked her down, hoping she could shed light on Evelyn's files. What she told me flipped everything upside down. "Evelyn trusted me with the decryption key," MIA said, handing me a slip of paper. "She told me to give it to the police if anything ever happened to her. But there's something else you need to know: she was being followed. She believed someone in your department was leaking her location." My heart sank. Was the killer closer than I thought? The decrypted files revealed everything: evidence of embezzlement, bribery, and even human trafficking. But the most damning piece of evidence was a video. In it, Evelyn confronted Robert Langston in a parking lot. She accused him of orchestrating everything, including her being followed. His response chilled me to the core. "You're just a fly in my web, Evelyn. Do you really think I don't know every step you take? Go ahead, publish your story. Let's see who believes you before you disappear." This wasn't just a case of murder. This was a web of corruption, so deep it seemed untouchable. But what struck me most wasn't Robert's arrogance. it was the shadowy figure in the background of the video. It was someone I recognized. It was my partner, Detective Mark Collins. I felt a wave of disbelief. Mark had been by my side throughout this entire investigation, but now I realized he'd been playing both sides. Evelyn must have discovered his involvement and planned to expose him. That's why she'd been killed. When I confronted Mark, his calm demeanor cracked. "You don't understand, Laura. They control everything. If I hadn't cooperated, I'd be dead too, but I couldn't let him walk away from this." I recorded our conversation and turned it over to Internal Affairs. Mark was arrested, but I knew he was just a cog in a much larger machine. Part 4. Armed with the evidence, I approached Robert Langston directly. I wasn't stupid. I had backup waiting nearby, and the meeting was secretly recorded. But Robert wasn't the kind of man to go down quietly. "Do you think you've won?" he sneered. "Even if I go to prison, this town will still be mine," but this time, his threats didn't scare me. The files Evelyn had collected were sent to the media, and within days, the entire town was in an uproar. Protests erupted, and several officials were arrested. Robert Langston's empire crumbled overnight. Evelyn's death wasn't in vain. She exposed a darkness that had plagued our town for years, and her bravery inspired others to come forward with their stories. As for me, I couldn't shake the guilt of not protecting her in time, but I knew her legacy would live on. "Some truths are worth dying for," Evelyn had once written in her journal. She was right. And even now, whenever I pass by her apartment, I can feel her presence, a quiet reminder to always keep fighting, no matter the odds. This case changed me forever. It taught me that justice isn't just about catching the bad guys, it's about standing up for what's right, even when the cost is high. Evelyn Carter may be gone, but her story will never be forgotten.
Thank you for listening to Story Time. If you were captivated by this story, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you're new here, remember to subscribe for more dark and gripping stories just like this. Until next time.